The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Meow, meow, meow. Dr. Rab Stewart, what you got, man? Dude, what is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? You got a Maine Coon over there or something? What are you doing?
I have the world's smallest Maine Coon.
Oh, my gosh. He is Dr. Rab Stewart of the Rossbridge Animal Hospital out there at Rossbridge. He has his own place. It's a hospital. It's huge. Let me ask you this. Why do you call it a hospital? Why don't you just call it a vet office? Or does a hospital make it sound better?
It just sounds better.
I agree, man. It sounds like if I'm going to take my pet somewhere, I'm taking them to a hospital. I'm not taking them to a doc in the box. I'm not American Family Healthcare. Forget that. I'm taking them to the doc place. Ross,
people, like traditionally, that we call them clinics, and it was like that for decades, and it just sounded like I don't. Yeah, listen, I'm not. I just feel like the word clinic. It's just I don't know. It just feels.
The clinic's where you go to get your VD cleared up, dude. That's where
Exactly.
I used to go. I used to go to the clinic, man. My cat ain't going to stinking clinic. Rossbridge Vet at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter. The number is 205-208-0301, 208-0301. If you ain't seen Dr. Rab Stewart, your pet's not getting the care it needs. There you go. This week, we got a lot to get into. We got a lot of Mutt Mail to get into. Some crazy videos with a Maine Coon and a deer that jumped 87 feet. We're going to get into some gay pets. We got a lot to get into. But the first story I want to get into, Hong Kong announced earlier this week that they're about ready to kill 2,000 small animals after several hamsters tested positive for COVID-19 at a pet store. And I know you've done this numerous times. Again, tell us COVID-19, how animals get COVID-19, how it's a different COVID-19 that we actually get. I guess it's not even COVID-19, it's a COVID because COVID-19 is the one that affects the humans. Is it transmittable between animals and humans? Can you kind of clear all that up for us?
Yeah, so coronavirus has been around in dogs and cats for a long time, and it's not the SARS COVID-19. It's just a different coronavirus. And it can cause respiratory symptoms, and it can also cause GI symptoms. So that's not something that people can get. It is something that can be spread. Like if a cat gets it, then it can spread it to another cat. If a dog gets it, it can spread it to another dog. COVID-19, animals can get that as well. There were a bunch of ferrets in, I think it's been almost 2 years now. So I can't remember if it was in Minnesota or Wisconsin. I think it was in Minnesota, but a ton of ferrets got it. And so they euthanized all those ferrets. Early on.
Hold on. Is there a reason to euthanize these animals? Can they not be quarantined or once they get it, they'll always have it?
Well, I think it was probably just a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
We've got this huge population of animals that have it, and we don't really know. And this will kind of answer your other question. We don't really know the relationship yet. Between the zoonotic potential of the virus. Zoonotic meaning how does it spread from animals to people? So I think when you just have a large number of animals that have it and confirm that it is COVID-19, I think the easiest thing to do, depending on where you are, is just to euthanize them, because we don't want that spreading more in the human population than it already is. I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I don't know what the thing to do is. Thankfully, no one's asking me.
Yeah.
But they euthanized a bunch of ferrets. So we did it here. Somebody in Minnesota cleared out a bunch of ferrets a couple of years ago when all this started happening, maybe a year and a half ago. So now they're doing the same thing in China. And so when this thing early on, when it broke, there was evidence of domesticated pets getting the virus. And we're pretty sure that these pets got it from a human because the pets don't really leave the house. They're domesticated.
Yeah.
But there's no real evidence that says that once a domesticated dog or cat gets it, we don't know if it can spread to people. because in my opinion, it's because the people were exposed to other people. I mean, if you could take a positive animal and put it in a room with a non-positive person and isolate those two creatures so that there's no possible way that they could get COVID from somebody else, and then the human test positive, then I think we'd be able to figure out that it came from an animal, but I don't think anyone's done that yet.
And it's kind of surprising and amazing that they haven't, quite frankly, because I mean, just when you think you figured this thing out, it seems like it rears its ugly head in a different direction. Dr. Rab Stewart of the Rossbridge Animal Hospital joins us. Darkside of the Pooch. It airs every Monday right here exclusively on Tony Kurre Radio at noon and 8-208-0301. Also, the FDA approved the first treatment for pain associated with osteoporosis. It's the first monoclonal antibody new animal drug for any animal species approved by the FDA. I don't know if you had heard about this. If you haven't, there's your news, and it's pretty cool. It's amazing that's the first monoclonal antibody ever approved by the FDA. But I didn't know that osteoporosis was such an issue in cats. I knew it was in dogs, but it is in cats as well?
Now, is it osteoporosis or osteoarthritis?
I'm sorry, osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis. Yeah, explain the difference there between the two.
Well, osteoporosis is not really something that we see in animals, or at least, domesticated small animals that we deal with. And so I don't know a whole lot about it other than just the walking around knowledge that it's basically your bones getting fragile.
Yes.
Osteoporosis is something that I think it's more common in women. I don't think that men really get it, but their bones get weak and they just snap. So one thing that I wonder if that could be categorized is a pathologic fracture. So, you fracture bones with trauma, but bones can also be fractured if they're weak. And so that would be considered a pathological fracture or a pathologic fracture. For example, if something we see fairly commonly in giant breed dogs is osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. Mm-hmm. So advanced osteosarcoma can lead to a pathologic fracture because the bone is weak, and so it snaps. So that would be kind of where osteoporosis falls. But osteoarthritis is just what it sounds like. It's arthritis. And dogs and cats it's really common that we see that. It can happen in pretty much any joint, but the big ones for dogs are their hips, especially for medium and large and giant breed dogs. Arthritis of their hips is really common. Some dogs are prone to something called hip dysplasia, and that is you could consider it a kind of a congenital or not a birth defect, but something that they were born with the predisposition to have. So then as they get older, you see signs of arthritis. So they have trouble getting up or getting down, or they limp, when they haven't been using the leg, but their knees, their ankles, their wrists, their spine, all that stuff can have arthritis. And it's really easy to diagnose. It's easier to diagnose in dogs because they limp or, they're just slow getting up or down. But cats, it's a little bit more insidious. So some things you can see in cats is if you have a cat that normally jumps up on countertops or furniture, they stop doing that. If you have a cat that has a litter box that they have to step up, if it's just a couple of inches sometimes, if they have to step up on that, cats will start using the bathroom outside of the litter box because they don't want to step up into it, because when they step up, there's a small, maybe a second or two where all of their weight is on their back legs. And so that's painful for them. So they won't do it.
Is there something that causes arthritis in cats? Or is it just old age?
Yeah. It's just age. Sometimes it can be wear and tear. So if for example, if a dog tears its ACL, if it's not repaired, soon after the tear happens and there's a lot of motion in that joint, and that motion creates bone-on-bone contact. And so that's going to cause arthritis. So there are some kind of traumatic injuries that we recommend that are surgically repaired quickly so that doesn't develop. Another thing with dogs' knees, this is more small dog, been talking more big dogs with this, kind of thing. But small breed dogs get something called medial patellar luxation. And that's just a medical term meaning that their knee kind of pops out of place. And when it pops out of place, it pops towards the end, like towards the abdomen of the dog rather than popping outside, towards the outside aspect of the leg. That's really common in small breed dogs. And the smaller the dog, the more common it is. And it's just a conformational problem, like where the kneecap sits, the groove that it sits in may not be deep enough, or sometimes the patellar tendon that connects the kneecap to the tibia can be kind of skewed medially or kind of towards the body, and so that pulls the patella over. So the more that happens, that's bone-on-bone contact, and you'll see arthritis.
You have used a lot of big words in today's show. I'm getting kind of turned on, man. I gotta just tell you. I don't know if I'm getting bored. I don't know if I'm getting bored or horny. One of the two. It's fantastic. Dr. Rab Stewart joins us here from the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, Darkside, the Pooch. It airs at noon and 8. Fresh new shows every Monday, noon and 8 here on Tony Kurre Radio. So my daughter's 9 years old. She's got herself a blue heeler, and this dog cannot keep its nose out of the cooch of the other female dog in the family. I mean, constantly. And I understand dogs are going to sniff, they do that, but they already know each other. So my daughter believes that her blue heeler is a lesbian. Is it possible to have gay dogs and cats? Your experience in gay dogs and cats, because I can tell you right now that I think I've seen several dogs that I don't think it was a situation where it was an alpha dog situation or they were trying to show dominance. I just actually believe they were gay. Your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not. It's definitely possible, and I think that the thing is, again, this is one of those things where I feel like you have to have some like verbalization of, what the preference is, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of history and a lot of examples of male dogs humping other male dogs out of a dominance or power play kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But who's to say that it's not a sexual thing as well, but I think that until they learn to talk, I don't know that we'll ever truly know the answer to that.
And we'll just leave it go at that. Very good there, Dr. Rab Stewart. All right, some Mutt Mail here. Angie in West Blockton has multiple cats, 5 cats. They all seem to get along, but then once in a while they fight. She said they like to play around with each other and then it ends up turning into a fight. She said, is there any way to know whether your cats are playing or fighting? And I'll say this with dogs too. We used to have dogs that we thought they were fighting, but they were playing. They were rolling around. How do you know the difference between a dog playing and fighting?
Just kind of their body stance. So if it's for a cat, if they have their ears laid back, where if their ears aren't up, like they normally would be. If their ears are laid back on their head, then that can be a sign of aggression or fear. We associate a dog wagging its tail with it being happy or excited, but when a cat does it, it's different. We consider it swishing of the tail, and that is a sign of anxiety or fear or aggression. But also if a cat with an arched back with their hackles up, that's also a sign of aggression. So it's almost easier to see aggression in a cat than it is playfulness. But if you look for those things, you'll kind of get an idea of if they're happy or scared or whatever. With dogs, if a dog has its head kind of lower than its rump, that's a play position. Everybody's seen that.
Me too.
Yeah. So that's like there's a yoga position, downward dog. Okay, that's what it looks like. Wagging the tail, of course, for dogs means they're happy. We just said that. If their hair kind of in between their shoulder blades, if that's up, then that's a sign of aggression. Everybody knows the lip curling. That's a sign of aggression. It's more. Everyone knows kind of what to look for in dogs. At least most people do. If a dog rolls over on its back and shows its belly, then it's trying to be submissive. Yeah. So it may not mean that it's trying to play like it would if it were doing the downward dog pose. It just means that it doesn't want any trouble. But sometimes dogs that lay on their back and are showing that submissive body language, sometimes you got to watch out for them too, because if they continue to be pressured, that submission will turn to fear, and then they could turn on you, and do some fear biting potentially.
Wow, that's amazing. I never knew that. That's why we have you on. That's fantastic. Let me ask you this. I know when you have two strange dogs get together, there could be a fight to the death. Thank goodness I've never seen that. Have you ever seen two dogs that knew each other, that lived together, that were part of a family, that fought to the point where one of them got injured?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen household dogs one kill the other.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, it may have happened more than I think, but right now I'm only thinking about, one specific example. And it was a dog that had been in the household for years, and a new dog that, this family had recently gotten. And the new dog, unfortunately, killed the older dog.
Oh, wow. And how long were these dogs together before this happened?
A couple months, I think.
Wow.
And the older dog was a smaller, kind of like Maltese kind of dog, if I remember right. And then the other one was a puppy, but it was it was going to be a big dog when it was full grown. So it was already bigger than the Maltese.
Yeah.
And the people just came home and found it in the backyard. And one dog's covered in blood and alive, and the other dog is covered in blood and dead.
Oh, that's horrible. Is there any preventive things you can do to keep that from happening? I mean, as long as you're feeding them separate, and I guess allowing them to get to know each other a little better. But that's just something that just happens, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I don't think there was anything that they could have done, because the dogs had been introduced for, like I said, for a couple of months, and they had never had any problems. And no one knows what happened because no one was home.
Yeah.
The dogs stayed outside when the owners were at work. And so, no one knows what happened, but I don't think there was anything that they could have done. If you do introduce dogs, the first time you bring in a new dog into the house, you got to pay really close attention and be sure that they're going to get along. And I recommend keeping both the dogs on a leash, so that if you in the house, so that if you do have a problem, you have easy access to pull them apart. But you're going to figure out pretty quick if they're going to get along or not. And it's most of the time when you bring a puppy in, it's going to be the dog that is established and been there for a long time that's going to have the issue, and not the puppy. Usually the pecking order gets established pretty quickly, because they're just like us. They're self-preserving. I mean, if you have one grumpy dog and one non-grumpy dog, they're going to fall in line.
I had a couple of lovebirds that did that. For they were together.
Really?
They were there for 4 years together. And I woke up one morning and one took the head off the other one. I was like, okay, so much for lovebirds. Their names were Missile and Toe. We lost Toe. Tom in Birmingham, we're talking to Dr. Rab Stewart here, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, at Rossbridge Vet on Twitter. You can also find them on Facebook, Rossbridge Animal Hospital, 208-0301. Tom in Birmingham has got a 10-year-old wire fox terrier. I've had a wire fox terrier, the best dog, one of the best dogs I've ever had. Super smart, loving, just a fantastic dog. For some reason, his dog is not remembering any of his tricks. He's not remembering where to eat, and he's wondering if it's possible that his animal has got dementia. Can pets get dementia?
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, and the symptoms that Tom is mentioning are definitely on the list of symptoms when they have dementia. The other thing that you can see is they'll go into a room that they don't normally go into and just kind of want to be by themselves. They'll stare at the wall or stare into the corner of a wall. Sometimes they'll get trapped, in between a door and the wall, they don't know where to go. But changes in their mentation. So if you have a dog that for, a decade has been, friendly and nice, all of a sudden it becomes aggressive, that's another sign. And there's not a whole lot that you can do about it. Just like there's not a whole lot you can do in people. It can't really be reversed. I think in people there's medications that can kind of slow it down. Sure. And that's just personal experience with family. But in dogs, there's a diet that's made by a really prominent food company for dogs and cats, and they have a food that's supposed to it has a different fatty acid. It's like a medium chain fatty acid that's supposed to help kind of slow down the mental aging process.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is some stuff out there, but it's not curative.
Missy in Knoxville said that she kicked off 2022 by going vegan, unbeknownst to her husband. He was not happy about it, by the way, she puts in the email. But she wanted to change her dog over to vegan. She said, first of all, is it okay to do that? Is it okay to feed my animal just a vegetable-based type of dog food? Does it even exist? And is it healthier for dogs to be vegans than carnivores?
There's a lot of plant-based foods that are totally healthy. The one that we use a lot it's for dogs that have skin allergies
Mm-hmm.
and may be allergic to, almost every protein source you can think of except for soy. So the diet that I'm talking about is soy-based, and it's totally healthy. That's the only protein source in it. So yeah, they can have that, but I would be very cautious, and I would avoid a human diet that's given to a dog. You don't just want to feed your dog vegetables that you cook because they're going to miss out on vitamins and minerals, one especially called taurine, that you're not giving them if you're just doing like a home cooked.
What does taurine do?
And we're learning more and more about it. In cats, it can lead to thyroid problems, and in dogs, it can lead to heart problems if they don't get it, if they're not getting it. So, I think we'll probably learn more and more about it as people, just stop going to the dog food aisle, because more and more people are trying to feed their dogs like they feed themselves.
Yeah.
And as they do that, we're seeing new things in pets that we haven't seen before, because this is a new thing that, people are doing. So, metabolic problems and heart problems.
My mom used to make scrambled eggs for us all the time. She made awesome scrambled eggs, and she always made a couple extra eggs for our dog, Rufus. And we'd always go, you're not supposed to give the dog scraps. And she said it was great for his coat. It made his coat extra shiny. Her vet told her, this was 50 years ago, that eggs made dogs' coats shiny. You ever heard that?
I've heard it, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it. And there's nothing, as long as your dog does not get an upset stomach, then there's nothing wrong with supplementing their food with human food, as long as it's not toxic.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about this often, but grapes and raisins and chocolate and onions and garlic, and there's others, but those are the main ones. You don't want to give your dog things that can be toxic, but just if you want to give them some food every now and then along with their dog food, it's not going to be that big of a deal, as long as it doesn't upset their stomach and then send you with them to the vet to treat diarrhea or vomiting or whatever.
Yeah.
But you also got to worry about, you got to be sure they're the correct weight. So, that's another thing to think about.
Todd in Nashville, you're listening to Darkside the Pooch. Lots of Mutt Mail here. Go to TonyCurryRadio.net, TonyCurryRadio.net. That's Curry with a K. Become a bonehead and leave your email. We get tons of emails every single week. These are great questions. Todd in Nashville said he likes to give his dogs, obviously, the flea and heartworm medicine every 3 months, and he's got one dog that will just not swallow whatever he tries to put. He's hidden things in hot dogs. He's tried to stick it down its throat. He's rubbed its throat. What's the best way to get an animal to swallow a pill?
Well, for heartworm prevention, there's options that you don't have to give orally. Well, and for flea and tick too. So for flea and tick prevention, you can do topical stuff, but I would not get anything over the counter. I think you said he was in Nashville.
Yeah.
Is that where you said he was? So go to your local veterinarian and get a topical from them. Don't just go get something over the counter at Walmart or something. It's not going to work as well. So you can do topical for flea and tick, and there's also an injection for heartworms, and it will also treat intestinal parasites. It's an injection, and this injection I'm talking about can be given once a year, and it will give you 12 months of prevention, or it can be given every 6 months, and we'll give you 6 months of prevention. So if you just want to say, forget it, I don't want to have to mess with oral stuff, you can do that. But if you want to use up what you have, or you like the oral stuff, then I would just encourage you could break it up into small pieces and then try to put it in peanut butter or something that is also can be really useful as marshmallows.
It's amazing how they can. It's amazing how they can eat everything around that pill, and then they spit it back out again. It's the most amazing thing I've ever.
Yeah, most people have not tried marshmallows when I tell them. So I don't know. Maybe he wants to try that.
Okay. Finally, we got room for one more. Yeah, Trish in Fayetteville, Arkansas, absolutely loves Dr. Rab. She loves your demeanor. She was all the way. She's like she wish she lives a little closer so she'd come see you at Rossbridge Animal Hospital. She wants to ask the age-old question: why do dogs circle before they lay down?
Oh, I think and this is just totally my opinion, but I think they're kind of just getting that bed the way they like it. Kind of the way that I mash the pillow before I put my head on it. I think they're just kind of getting it a little comfy.
There you go. All right. So I sent out this picture, and I don't know if I put it on social media, but I sent it to you this morning, of this Maine Coon cat. It's a kitten. It weighs 27 pounds. This woman's holding the cat, and a lot of people think it's an actual dog. It's got high ears. It's a beautiful cat. I mean, it looks like if you saw it in the woods, it would look like an albino bobcat. But it's one of the largest cats. It's the biggest cat I've ever seen. What's one of the most amazing things you've ever seen of all of the animals that come through Rossbridge, whether it's their size, whether it's their trickery? What are some crazy things you've seen from some of the animals that come through Rossbridge?
Well, I got to tell you about the one that didn't come into Rossbridge. So before I moved here, I only did horse work there, and so I was living in Arizona. There was a guy who had crazy animals. It was almost like a zoo. He had zebras and camels, and he had giraffes. And we were called out there to look at a newborn giraffe.
Oh, wow.
It was less than a day old, and we'll probably. Up to this point, it is the highlight of my career, and it will probably always will be. A 1-day-old giraffe. We bottle fed it, and you are a tall man.
Yeah.
I'm not. You're what, 6'4"? I'm 6'1", and a baby giraffe is as tall as I am.
Wow.
When it comes out of its mother. So
that's amazing.
That was the most amazing thing.
That is amazing. How cool is that? So you bottle fed a baby giraffe.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was very cool.
How quickly do they get on their feet? They're pretty quick, right?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. They have to, or because they're going to get eaten. And it's the same way. Horses. They're the same way. They're up and mobile within hours.
That's pretty amazing, and I'm always super jealous of that tongue they have. To be able to eat something 4 feet away from your face is just an amazing thing. I could probably do that. I could do that with my nose, but I couldn't do it with my tongue. But I sure like to try. I wish I could do that. Dr. Rab Stewart of the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. Tell people how they can find you. You're wonderful, and always a wonderful, fruity kind of show we had today.
You can call us 208-0301. You can email us rossbridgeanimalhospital@gmail.com, and you can find us on Facebook.
Dr. Rab, you rock. We will look forward to talking to you again next Monday and get another Darkside of the Pooch underway. And by the way, I'd be remiss to mention that the big show is brought to you by Ed's Pet World. Ed's Pet World does fantastic work. A 47-year-old family-owned business based in Homewood and Birmingham, specialized in exotic pets, pet exhibitions, and service since 1974. Their new special pets you're going to pick up down there. They give you information support you need to have the best relationship with them, and they do it all, man. Red-tailed boas, lizards, including geckos, chameleons, bearded dragons, birds, parakeets, Amazon parrots. I don't know if they do love birds. And yes, they do rabbits, chinchillas, ferrets, and more. Not only that, an amazing collection of vintage and modern toys. Yes, Toys Seth. The owner has an amazing institution in Central Alabama, passion for collective vintage and modern toys. You get everything from Star Wars to Pops to various items, specialty watches, collectibles, more. Buy, sell, and trade. Do it with Ed's Pet World down there in beautiful Homewood, Alabama. Dr. Rab, thank you so much for you. I appreciate you. I love you. I'll talk to you next week.
There is not a cooler place in Birmingham than Ed's Pet World.
Totally agree with you. I'm going to leave right now and go down there and check out and go pet me a chinchilla. I love you, man.
Love you, buddy.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.